Hey guys, this is Fang VA here coming at you with a new video, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the very controversial portrayal of Sonic as what the fans like to call Metasonic. Um, so if you're new here, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and definitely hit that bell button if you all want to see more videos like this. So let's get started. Now, as what most people know, starting from Sonic Free Riders, we had a whole new voice cast, minus Mike Pollock, because obviously, he was impossible to replace. Because his freaking Eggman is so freaking amazing and it's so iconic. Not to undermine the people that came before, especially Mike's predecessor, who voiced him in Sonic, from Sonic Adventure 1 to Sonic Adventure 3, which may he rest in peace. Those games in particular, in terms of how they portrayed the characters. Obviously, the two biggest are Sonic and Shadow. The other one in Forces was Tails. Tails and Forces was definitely did not help people with why they dislike that game, along with Infinite. Because let me tell you, there's a reason why they want you to play Episode Shadow after you beat the main campaign of Forces. Because boy, does it make Infinite go from this awesome character to, oh, that's why he hates Shadow and everyone else, because Shadow just called him pathetic and weak. Okay. That's not lousy at all. But we're not going to be talking about Tails or Shadow. I already did a video on Shadow's character development and my thoughts about the meta era routing for Shadow. And I also even touched on the whole controversy of having too much classic Sonic stuff, which I think is I think it's dumb because it gives us more Sonic content, especially since side 2D games, and I might be wrong about this, definitely seem like they don't take as long to make as big 3D borderline open world platformers. Then yeah, I'll take more classic Sonic if it means we don't have to go through a dry spell again after Sonic Forces. That was rough. So, as everyone knows, from Sonic Free Riders to Sonic Forces, they really upped the cheesiness and the comedy. And let me tell you, to say that there's a large portion of Sonic fans that really, and I mean really, dislike that portrayal of Sonic is a understatement. I don't even like it. I love most of those games. And yes, I can even say I like Sonic Lost World, and I actually don't mind Forces. But Sonic Free Riders definitely sucks. And that's all because of the stupid motion controls, which is why I'm going to say this once again, Sega. Can you please port that game over to modern consoles and PC without needing the freaking motion controls? Thank you very much. Sonic's writing in those games definitely fit the era that those games came out in. Remember, that was when meta writing was a big thing in cartoons, like a really big thing, and that's a era that I don't look back on fondly when it comes to character writing in family-friendly stuff. Well, shows and games and all that, because it really does not only is it, in my opinion, really dumbing down characters, especially legacy characters like Sonic, but it really does, in my opinion, it really does show that there's a bit of a decrease in terms of quality with those products than what we had in my generation. And I don't know if this is just me getting older, so like I'm doing the whole typical the thing that I grew up with is better than what the newer generation got. That might be it. If that's the case, oh yeah, have I mentioned I'm turning 30 this year? So yes, I'm getting old. Um, or that it's just I generally just don't like that type of writing. And I think that's really what it is. I don't think it has nothing to do with a bias I have towards the thing I grew up with. Although there might be a little bit of bias, maybe. Um, but a lot of that's part of the reason why I never got into Steven Universe. I never got into um, Adventure Time. The only show from that era I got into was Regular Show, and that's because their jokes were different, and I liked it a lot. Yes, folks, I like Regular Show a lot, and I mean a lot. I watched it every time it came on. Um, but to see Sonic, my favorite video game character, and this is coming from a person that when I first got into video games, I was all about freaking Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, and Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. I can say that Sonic the Hedgehog is not only my favorite video game franchise of all time, it's my favorite. He's my favorite video game character of all time, so I want him to succeed. Now, did these games was Sonic Colors successful? Yes. Was Sonic Generations successful? Yes. Are they good games? Yes. But and I know that I hate this term, but has the writing aged well? No, it has not. Because when people go back to play those games, they're going to be like, huh, that's right, this is from that era to where people, for some strange reason, decide to write some fairly crummy jokes for their characters. And dumb down characters and the plot. Sonic Lost World, in my opinion, almost had a pretty decent story. If it wasn't for the fact that they do that stupid twist to where, oh yeah, by the way, Eggman wasn't actually on your side. I'm still confused by the ending. It's like, okay, was the Deadly Six still working with Eggman at the time, or what? I don't get it. I still don't understand the ending of that game, but whatever. And even Sonic Forces, I think, was a step in the right direction of having a more serious character. Knuckles was no longer a brain dead idiot. And now some might say, "Oh well, you don't like lighthearted Sonic stories." I don't mind lighthearted Sonic stories. Like, let me just put this on record here. I do not want all my Sonic games to be doom and gloom. There has to be some, sunshine in there too. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with just having a classic Sonic versus Eggman story. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, Sonic Heroes was basically that. You know what? That's a perfect example to use. Sonic Heroes is the type of lighthearted story that I really don't mind, actually. And I know that some might point out the fact that, well, technically it's not lighthearted because Neo Metal Sonic put Eggman, locked Eggman up, but that game was a more lighter story compared to Adventure 1 and Adventure 2. It wasn't as serious. It was more fun. It was more, like I said, it was more the whole classic Sonic versus Eggman, or in this case, the classic Sonic versus Metal Sonic rivalry. So that type of lighthearted story, I don't mind. And the lighthearted story in the Sonic Advance games, the Sonic Rush games. So I don't mind lighthearted Sonic games and stories if it's done right. And the fact of the matter is, the writing during the Metal era wasn't done right. Like I said, it has aged poorly. Especially when you have people praising how the characters were in Forces. Now, obviously, there's also the debate, and somehow in Sonic Prime is canon to Sonic Forces, and the IDW is canon to the games and Prime, which I don't see how Prime is canon, especially if they said it takes place after Forces, when Sonic acts like a complete moron in Prime. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Sonic Prime for what it is, but I'm not a fan of Sonic's writing in there. He has really made some weird choices in that show. But it is definitely apparent that they definitely took inspiration from the Sonic movies for Sonic's writing as well, which that's another thing too, is that I feel part of the reason why they probably abandoned the Metasonic was also because that's what the movies are doing now. But you see, there's one difference. There's one teeny tiny big difference. The Sonic movies are still serious. Despite the fact that Sonic will make some sort of meta joke. I don't dislike movie Sonic's personality at all. Because obviously with him, with his age, they're going for a more, I guess, realistic thing with movie Sonic in terms of just how his personality is. I mean, the jokes he makes fits his age in those movies. But when it comes to the games, I prefer my Sonic. I don't mind him dissing Eggman. Like, let me just go on record and say that Baldy McNosehair, I think, is not a bad nickname for Eggman. I think it's on the same level as what the 90s cartoon Sonic called Robotnik, which is Robotnik. That's on the same level. And it makes sense that Sonic would make these nicknames just to be a butt. That's who Sonic is. But what Sonic isn't is there's something serious going on, and oh well, geez, it's time for Sonic to crack a freaking joke. Dare I say, Sonic Boom Sonic is how I would rather have the Meta Era Sonic be. Now, is Boom Sonic a lot more sarcastic? Yes. Actually, what's interesting though is that Boom Sonic is actually closer to the Fleetway Sonic's personality. Because Fleetway Sonic, he's a jerk. I highly recommend any of you to read those comics. Sonic is a jerk in those British Sonic comics. Ah, poor Tails. He's always getting insulted by Sonic in those comics. Poor Tails. So much for being Sonic's best friend in that continuity. I wouldn't want to be best friends with anyone that always is super sarcastic towards me and is a joke. But anyways, back to the point here. Is that moving forward, Sonic Forces Sonic is the way Sonic should be written. It is a lot more closer. Actually, you know what? I'm sure that there are people out there that don't like some things with Forces Sonic, but whatever. This is also why I've been trying to write scripts for videos so I can stay on track. Sonic Frontier Sonic is a lot more closer to what I prefer Sonic to be. He's serious, he cracks a joke, but the humor never overstays its welcome compared to the meta era. And that is why if they ever go back to those stupid jokes, I'm not going to be happy. Because growing up, and again, generation talk now, growing up, the type of content that my generation had, we never needed to dumb down our humor. We never needed to do anything to show the fact that, oh, well, this cartoon is for kids. We never needed that in our entertainment. But that also could be because, cartoons have evolved over the years. They clearly have. I mean, the humor during the 20s and 30s definitely don't work nowadays because of some themes in those old cartoons. And obviously, the cartoons from the 40s and 50s are different. So obviously, yes, humor does change over the years, it seems, when it comes to cartoons and especially writing cartoons. But the fact is that you also got to be careful too, because if you write characters a certain way, that's a perfect way to really show what era that cartoon came from. I mean, animation is definitely like that. I mean, if you watch Transformers G1, that definitely looks 80s. It has that typical 80s look. But do people care? No, because people love it. I love it. Even though I wasn't born in the 80s, I love Transformers in general. But for Sonic, it's okay for him to crack a joke, but don't let that be the only part of his personality that you focus on. And that is also why you don't hire two writers that are not a fan of Sonic. Just saying, that's what happens. I mean, we see it all the time with Star Wars right now, too. We have people working on Star Wars that definitely does not understand the source material, and we get shows like Kenobi. The book Boba Fett had someone that understands Star Wars, but for some certain reason, they didn't make Boba Fett be. Anyways, that's for a different channel and a different discussion. But, so, to end things, let me know what you all think of the meta era of Sonic. Let me know if I'm being too harsh about that era. Let me know, like I said, if you agree or disagree. And, yeah. As always, I'll see you all in the next video. See you guys.